Oh, hey, welcome to my house. My name is Ryan Jarls. I'm the Cultural Resources Planner at the Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission. We here at the MPC's Preservation Department just want to wish you a big, happy Preservation Month. May is, as you know, Preservation Month. So since the onset of COVID-19 and our social distancing regulations, we've decided to bring Preservation Month to you through a virtual format. So week 1 of Preservation Month, we did a webinar on Savannah and historic preservation. Week 2, we went ahead and did a webinar on Savannah's original 6 squares. Week 3, and for you to view at any time you like, we're doing this video here, which is actually going to be a short kind of workshop on reglazing historic windows. So let's just go over why I chose to do that, right? It's a very simple task to do. A lot of people have historic windows on their home, and when they start to deteriorate or the glass falls out, they decide to just go ahead and get a whole new window. Why not repair the window you already have? A lot of people say the eyes, right, are the windows to the soul. I believe on your home or your historic home, the windows themselves are kind of that soul of the home. So why not repair and restore on your own that window on your historic home? Let's just go over a few simple things you will need prior to starting the reglazing of your window. Let's go over it, huh? Step 1, you're gonna need gloves. So I have this glove here, which is very protective, because prior to starting your window reglazing, you're going to want to just assume that it most likely has lead paint on it. If you don't want to just go ahead and assume and you want to test it, you can go to your local hardware store and they actually do sell lead test kits. I, for this purpose of this video, did get one of those lead tests, and I did test the window that I will be working on today, and it did test positive. So we're going to go through all of the nice measures you'll need to make sure that you are not affected by that lead. And step 1 is going to be gloves. If you don't want to get rubber gloves that are flimsy and tear apart, I would suggest going and getting a rubber coated work glove from the hardware store as well. So you're going to want this so that you don't get that lead paint on your nice little handsies. Step 2, you're going to want a mask. Since we're already all supposed to be wearing masks anyways, when we're out in public, you probably have a couple of these handy. So I am going to go ahead and put mine on here for the rest of this video, just so I am protected. Next, we're going to need those tools that you'll need, or supplies you'll need. Include a wire brush, a glazing knife, and also glazing points. I'll kind of explain what these are used for once we really get into it, but the most important thing you'll really need for glazing a window is, in fact, the glazing putty itself. This is what you will use to seal the glass into your window. So those are the main supplies you'll need, and of course you'll need the actual window itself. So let's take a look at that real fast. So this is the window I've selected to reglaze. It is not actually a window from my home, but it's a window I found in the street, and I wanted to reglaze so that I can use it for maybe an art piece or some other thing. You could be doing this to an actual window from your home though. You'll notice I've also laid down plastic because I did decide to do this inside my home, but I'm in a well-ventilated room. I'm going to be opening all of my windows, and I'm going to have the fan on to get the air out of this space. And I will also, again, be wearing my mask and gloves to protect myself from that air. So let's go over what these tools are actually for and what they do. So before we actually start reglazing this window, you're going to need to get rid of the old glazing. This one is essentially falling apart, so it won't actually take that much work. But you need to get all the old glazing off. And once you get the glazing off, there's going to be little bits left inside of this crevice here. And that's actually what this tool is going to be used for. We're going to use the wire brush to clean all of that excess off of that space. Next, you're going to need to get the glass out. And once you get the glass out, again, you're going to scrub this space to get all the excess out. You can even use this end of your glazing tool to scrape any excess off. And then one other thing that I mentioned were these glazing points. Glazing points are actually what is holding this glass in. So once we get all this old glazing off, you'll actually have to use your knife here to remove these points from this window. These are modern glazing points and they will not look like what I'm going to pull out of this window, which you'll see in a little bit. And then the last thing we saw was the window glazing itself, which is what this stuff is. So it starts out soft and it will actually harden to this after a while. So let's now kind of clean this window off and go over what we're going to do. So I'm just going to start removing the glazing. So we're going to be very simply just kind of releasing that old glazing from the window. Make sure you're doing it carefully because I actually want to reuse this glass. If you don't want to reuse your glass, you don't have to do it as carefully as I am. But you see how it's essentially just coming off, and this will happen over time with that historic glazing. It hardens, it becomes brittle, and it'll essentially just fall out of the window over time. So I'm going to continue doing this, but we're going to move on to what you'll actually be doing next, which again is that cleaning once you release all of this from the window itself. And you'll see now that I have removed all of the old glazing, and all that's left are little bits and the glazing points left on the window. The best part about having this plastic down is that you can just toss all of your stuff off to the side and later dispose of it properly, because again, this has lead paint in it and you don't just want to throw that in your trash for animals and other, or maybe children, to get into at some point. So now that I've got the main glazing off, we will have to remove the glazing points, which are hard to see. They're hiding. You'll see these little points down here. So you'll just have to pull those out. It's actually fairly easy if you're using the putty knife, the glazing knife. Normally it is, at least. So we're just going to try and get that out of there, which it is not coming out very easily like I said it would. So unfortunately, that happened. Well, you'll get all these glazing points out, and once you do, that glass will actually just kind of pop out. And once you pop it out, you're again going to have to clean it. So let's go over that. But before we pop that glass out and start reglazing and cleaning and all that other stuff, I just want to show you what the historic glazing points looked like on this window compared to what we're going to utilize. So again, this is going to be much stronger than what was previously in the window. And there were actually only two holding this pane of glass in. We're going to be using one on all four sides, just to make sure that that glass is really protected and is actually going to stay in that window for a long time. So we're going to start cleaning now. All the excess off of this glass so that we can slide it out very easily. So once you do that, that glass should really just pop right out of that window. So I'm going to try and do that as carefully as possible so that I don't break the glass. At this point, the glass, like I said, should just come out, which it did. But you're left with a very dirty, grimy window. And that's all going to have to come off. So again, we have our trusty wire brush, which should get everything off. Although they get old and dirty, they don't get that bad because that glazing kind of protects the space. So we're just scraping all of that off. And you will have larger pieces that still need to come off, which we'll use that glazing knife for. So you'll just clean all of the excess out. Again, it's all falling down onto that plastic, therefore easy cleanup afterwards. So I'm just going to keep brushing until all of this is off. I'll use that putty knife to get the larger pieces off, and you'll need to do that. And once all of this is clean, I will show you what you have to do next. And now that everything is cleaned off of that space, it's about as smooth as I can get it, you're going to want to clean the glass next. So around these edges, just to make sure that there's nothing dirty on there when you place the glass back into the window. So let's just go over to my sink. I'm going to clean this off and I'll bring it right back here to show you what you're going to do with it when you put it back into the window. But before we start putting the putty onto the window, you're going to want to make sure that glass is secure. So again, we're using these glazing points here on all four sides. And you see this flat portion on it? That's what's going to push it against that wood. That's also going to help you actually use this putty knife to put that into it. So you'll just press that in, and that will place it into the wood. And then that is when you can actually put the putty over top of that glazing point and hold that glass in place. So this is going to be the fun part. So once you've laid out a nice thin layer all the way around the window, and I've just done that kind of by rolling it out to a nice thin amount, and then that's what you're going to lay against the edge of the window. And then you don't have to make it pretty at this point. When you're going to make it pretty is with this glazing tool. So we're going to be essentially using this as our form, and you'll just place that kind of against the wood here, and you'll notice it kind of creates that angle with it, and that's what's going to smooth this out along the window. And whatever's excess, you'll just be able to pull away. And so I'll just give you a nice close-up of that. See how nice and smooth it is? And then again, the excess you're seeing around, that can just get pulled away with this sharper end of the tool here. So when it's all said and done, you're going to have a really nice clean glazing around your window. So I'm going to do a quick just run around. And the hardest part's going to be the corners, but you'll kind of get the hang of that, because when you get to the corner, it'll just press up against itself. And don't be afraid if the corner gets a little strange when it's all said and done. You can just pat it with your finger to kind of smooth that out even. Because again, this is going to be your personal window. You can make it as beautiful or as strange as you want. This glazing over time is going to get hard no matter what shape it is. So you're not a professional, right? If it doesn't turn out beautiful, it doesn't turn out beautiful. It's going to be fine either way. It's still going to be a reglazed window, whether you use it for an art project or not. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of the window real fast for you, and you'll get to see what it kind of looks like when it's done. Which is kind of like this. So again, I'm not a professional, just like you're probably not a professional. I did it as good as I could. I used the tool to smooth it out. I kind of got rid of the excess. Obviously I could clean up little bits here and there still. But overall, this is a reglazed pane of glass on your historic window. So some of you may not have this nice grid pattern, true divided light, and you may just have one large pane of glass. You can also reglaze those the exact same way. It doesn't change. It's all very simple and something you can do yourself at home. So let's just go into our conclusion real quick, because I don't want to hold you too much longer. Wow, I guess that's it. It's not a lot. It was super short, but I hope you enjoyed my tiny little tutorial, my little workshop on reglazing historic windows. So that's it. But I do want to thank you on behalf of the Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission, including myself, the Cultural Resources Planner, Leah G. Mahalik, the Historic Preservation Director, and Allison Smith, the Preservation Planner. We all three and the rest of the MPC want to thank you for joining us on our Virtual Preservation Month adventure, including Week 1, that Savannah and Historic Preservation webinar, Week 2, the Savannah's Original Squares webinar, and Week 3 and ongoing, for however long you want, you can watch this video tutorial on window reglazing. Happy Preservation Month, and be safe out there. Please, look at our flyer real fast.